Hi, Malini. Malini is from Vancouver. Hi, Sheila.
Hi, Sanjata. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Good to see you.
Yeah, good
How are
to
you
see you
doing?
too.
You didn't see me saying you can't hear us, is it? Can you hear me better? Is that better?
Are you waiting for me to answer?
Yes,
mean-
we can all hear you.
Okay.
Are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, good evening, everyone, and thank you all for coming. Today, we are joined here by a group of highly accomplished women to celebrate International Women's Day. From being an efficient homemaker to running a campaign, launching an initiative, reporting an achievement, and many more, women have proven their mettle in every sphere across the world. With this year's topic, Choose to Challenge, we will be discussing achievements, advice, empowerment, and challenging norms. This event is being organized by the mentoring. The mentoring's vision is that no individual should be excluded from active participation in employment, training, education, health, community life, or leisure and social activities because of cultural, language, physical, mental, or emotional health and well being issues or lifestyle choices, and that everyone should be able to enjoy a healthy self esteem and reach their full potential. That is our vision. Being a female founder of the charity, the mentoring, and working with a core team of women day to day, we are committed to improving gender representation and equal opportunities. What we do more in detail on our website, www.mentorrain.org.uk. I will pass it on over to Siki, our compare moderator for today. Over to you, Siki.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. So before we kick off with the event, I'm just going to go through some housekeeping rules for Zoom and for YouTube. So firstly, we have muted everyone by default. This is just so there's no background noise and we won't be disrupted by mobile phones. By joining the event virtually, you're also giving consent for this event to be recorded. It will be shared on social media channels such as YouTube, Spotify, our website. So if you would prefer not to be recorded, you can just turn your camera off now. To ask questions, you can use the chat option in Zoom and we'll get back to you. And we might not be, but we will answer at the appropriate time of the event. If your connection drops, just please come back in using the same Zoom link that we have previously sent you. And so now to kick off in no particular order, we will start with Sheila Henriksen-Brown. Sheila is currently the Third Sector Council CEO. Her commitment to volunteering extends to developing active volunteer schemes, taking responsibility for running Cardiff's Volunteer Centre. She also sits on a range of strategic partnership boards which represent her interest in policy and strategic influence to affect change. Over to you, Sheila.
Thank you, and happy International Women's Day, everybody, and thank you for joining us this evening. Okay, I've been asked to come along to give a view on empowering women under the theme that we're looking at, which is about challenging ourselves. And in terms of that, one of the things I wanted to think about, as in relation to my role, which is around encouraging and promoting community action and volunteering, is the role of community action and volunteering in that empowerment agenda. And one of the key things for me in that regards is that we all try to ensure that as we enter into our different spheres of influence and interest, that we all have a responsibility to ensure that we have an understanding of the broadest possible perspective. And one of the reasons I say that is because there are still challenges up until now. I mean, I don't need to tell you up until now, for people to be treated equally in the different environments in which we function, whether that's in the work environment, the study environment, or even sort of things that one would regard as almost like natural rights and entitlements, such as with regards to our general health and well-being. And one of the things that I think that feeds into that is that there's a risk sometimes as we go through the education system, for example, of surrounding ourselves with people who actually reflect our own interests, and in many circumstances our own backgrounds as well. And volunteering and community action give you an opportunity to actually have a much broader perspective, which I think is key if we're to undertake our roles with sufficient understanding of the range of needs and influences that exist within our communities. As I say, it's very easy if you simply leave school or leave university and just follow your general line of occupation or interest, or even decide to occupy yourself within your home environment. If you don't have that kind of broadest sort of outlook, you can find yourself making decisions from a very narrow frame of reference, which is, as I say, is through our own lived experience, we know can sometimes limit our own aspiration. So in terms of that, I would certainly encourage women, but obviously the wider population as well, to think about how we can, through that contribution that we can make to our societies, garner that mutual benefit that we can gather. And also, I think there's also soft skills that you learn in actually undertaking those particular kinds of roles that are very much transferable into different environments, whether, as I say, that's the home environment or the work environment or enterprise or study or whatever remit that one decides to work or find themselves within. And sort of communication, listening, agreement, dealing with challenge, dealing with conflict, all of those kind of things I think you get from that kind of learning, from that empirical understanding of what it's like to actually be involved across a different range of organisations or spectrums or perspectives or interests, etc. So that's one of the reasons why I champion community action and volunteering, and why I'm sitting here advocating for it so strongly. So you might expect that's what you would expect from me in my role. If people are less familiar with Cardiff Third Sector Council, we're the membership organisation for all third and voluntary sector organisations and groups across Cardiff. And that means that we have a role in ensuring that those groups have opportunities to connect, to influence, to do things like find funding, find trustees, find staff, find volunteers, all of the things really that, all of the resources that community action depends on to be as effective as possible. And what we try to do is to take the load off that so that it then allows community groups, organisations, individuals to focus on their particular area of interest and achieve the differences that they want to make. And sort of a good theme again in relation to International Women's Day is the difference that we make as women. And I think there's an opportunity through that wider interaction to make sure that we are part of the solution in that sense, that we do bring that wide perspective. So when we find ourselves in the rooms of influence or shaping things or delivering services, we're able to do so from an understanding of the broadest perspective possible to ensure there is more equity and more equality for the wider environment, to basically be the bridge for other people to be able to join us. So I think as leaders and as people in senior positions, we have a responsibility to ensure that that's something that we do, that we bring people along with us and we share our learning and the opportunities that we create. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Sheila. The transferable soft skills, a great opportunity, very good thing to highlight for different opportunities. Now we're moving on to Barbara Chidley. Barbara is currently studying for her Professor Doctorate focused on the potential impact of using conversational leadership, and she has been a very active Bevan advocate.
Thanks very much. And thank you also to Sheila. You gave me quite a nice segue coming in here as well. I was just checking quickly with Suj earlier what she most wanted. And she said, yes, could I just give a little bit of a story of my personal journey and some key achievements, and then actually share some learning, you know, thinking particularly about women on International Women's Day. So my background, I was born in Liverpool. I've got 4 brothers. We moved to South London when I was really very young. I was still in primary school because my father became the professor of organic chemistry at the School of Pharmacy in London. And he was an organic chemist of global reputation standing. And what I've thought about my journey is I've thought the whole way through who's been supporting or not women peer group members or male peer group members or both. So as I changed schools at that young age, I'd come from being quite a brash young Liverpool youngster running around the playground, totally at ease, totally confident. And my parents placed me in an all-girls Catholic convent school. So I'm there on the first day as a, confident 9-year-old with a thick Scouse accent. And I said a few sentences and immediately 2 or 3 of these posh girls go, oh, don't you speak awfully badly? Do you know, I didn't speak for a term, and I mean it. And that was my first run in with unhelpful female peer group members. And weirdly, in time, what my mother did was she organised elocution lessons. I hated them. But that's why I don't appear to have a Scouse accent any longer, just the odd word. However, my father, in spite of having 4 sons as well, he was ahead of his time. He was a real advocate of women and women equality. He supported female students, postgraduate students and undergraduates, and worldwide, because he supported loads of PhD students globally and did lots of PhD vivas. He encouraged increased recruitment and support of women students in the School of Pharmacy and within his degree areas. And he was a very active governor of female-only colleges of education. So, you're talking the 50s into the 60s. This is really ahead of time. So for him, it was a total no-brainer that I would go to university, just like 2 of my brothers went to university. And I went to Durham, studied maths and Italian. Very weird at that time to even consider doing a language alongside a maths degree, or even for a woman to do a maths degree. And when I did my A-levels, I did 4 A-levels. And this nun-run school they tried to object, but my father went in and said, I wanted to do 4 A-levels. So that was kind of, not heard of, to be honest. I moved straight into teaching without any teaching qualification, because when I began teaching, maths and science teachers were so short, we could walk out of the university into a school and teach without any training. That's exactly what I did. And I rapidly rose up the leadership management ladder so that by the time I was just over 30, I was a fully fledged secondary school deputy head teacher. So I arrive in the new school, which was an enormous school, about 1,300 pupils. The upper half of the school had 600 or 700 kids. The head of that school was a man. So on the first day that I was there, he invited me to go into assembly. I was introduced to hundreds of teenagers as the new senior mistress, but he didn't know whose. Now, can you imagine that happening today? It would have been a nightmare. I mean, I was so furious I couldn't do anything, because at that time, women and male deputy heads, I have to say, we were a senior mistress or a senior master. So the first 18 months or so in that school, I was very much the token woman. I was part of a senior team of 8. All the others were men. And umpteen jokes about, I needn't bother to go to the meeting, just leave my handbag. And I mean it. It's very hard to imagine. Can you imagine it now in the current world? Anyway, we had a big showdown after about 18 months. My God, it was a showdown. And it wasn't easy at all. However, it was achieved with the support of some outspoken women on the staff and some outspoken men and me, and the head, actually. So at that stage, my role was redefined. I was officially called a deputy head teacher. The senior mistress sign was taken off my door. Yes, off all the timetables, everything else. And my role became much, much weightier, curriculum development, budget work, and so on. So it was a huge, huge shift. That was me breaking through the token women barrier at the time. In time, excuse me, following a difficult divorce, I wanted to it was appropriate to sort of reshape my life. So I applied for and was appointed a secondary head teacher to a school in Merthyr. And I don't have any family in Wales, and we didn't have a network or whatever. Now, that really was a huge, huge culture change. The change of culture needed was enormous. Huge culture to actually have a woman, and actually a woman from England, and a woman who was divorced, and a woman who was a single parent to be appointed head teacher. And indeed, what I learned afterwards, I was actually the first woman head teacher of a comprehensive school in the Valleys. And at that time, there was a little article in the Times Educational Supplement that said even Turkey had a higher percentage of female secondary head teachers than Wales, or indeed the whole of the UK. So that was kind of quite groundbreaking. But again, it was a challenge, but with a lot of support from men and women. It really was, with both, and difficulties from both men and women. We did loads of stuff. The kids gained. We got a school improvement award. It really was a big, big difference. But in time, small schools were being phased out, and this was a small school. And I became ill with fibromyalgia, so I actually decided it was time to step aside. So although I was ill, I did set up my own leadership development skills business, because I'd always been very much into CPD work as well. And as I got a better and better handle on my own health, managing it better, I progressed into various high-profile voluntary roles with, like, the Chartered Management Institute, Community Foundation Wales, as well. I studied for a master's degree. I learned Spanish. I've spent a lot of time in Spain. And I put in place and led, as the executive chair, the only leadership awards that have ever been established in the UK or further afield, i.e. the Leading Wales Awards. And all of these projects, I've worked with many others collaboratively, and the teams have always been a mix of men and women. And I've got to say, I've received a lot of encouragement and support from both men and women. And I keep saying this because I think it's really important. 2016 was pretty, tough year for me. I became a sort of mystery shopper at 2016. We won't go into all the details, but certainly cardiothoracic and kidney directorates were crucial to me being here today. And I was very, very lucky to arrive at a ward just ahead of a personal major medical crisis. So therefore, the team on duty were able to make sure I'm still here today. So something like that, when you realise your health has been absolutely whammed again, and you've got to again reshape your life. So I'd done it once, I had to do it again. Made me really take time out and think. I was eventually diagnosed with lupus, which, if any of you know about that, it's an autoimmune condition that basically the body attacks itself and all the major organs. So building up the skills and knowledge to manage that's been really quite important. So I really rethought and thought, right, I've got a lifetime's experience invested in management and leadership. Is there any way that I can use that and focus it to help the NHS? Because I'm hugely appreciative of all the care and support I'd had. And out of that came the professional doctorate degree that was referred to, I think it's in the chat at the side, because I'm fixated on conversational leadership. And the purpose of this is to really maximise by the health professionals the delivery of patient-centred care, but also for them to help activate more and more and more patients to move into the driving seat of managing their own health. Because changing patient behaviour is what will help us drive very much the changes in NHS Wales that are required forward. So I concluded I would get involved with a doctorate, which is unbelievable, because I'd always thought I was never good enough to do that. We concluded the Leading Wales Awards at the end of 2019, and from that grew a brand new charity, Daring to Dream, whose mission is about supporting the emotional health and well-being of patients in Wales. So of this, I'm the chair and the voluntary chief operating officer. I think somebody said to me the other day I was retired. I'm not sure I am. I think the difference is I don't get paid for anything any longer. And I became a very active Bevan advocate, and I'm also the chair and programme coordinator of Engage with Success Wales. So everything is kind of integrated. But my thinking was, so that's just some of my journey and key points. But in honour of International Women's Day today, I wanted to really think, well, what learning can I share from it all? Well, fundamentally, I was extremely fortunate that my father was so pro-women, that he genuinely saw women as equals, me as equal to my brothers. He was a total believer in the power of education for me as well as for all my brothers, incredibly supportive of my achievement and their achievements. There was no difference. And that actually was quite unusual at that stage. But the impact of that is I never saw a glass ceiling, because it was just, I was going to university. You know, any achievements with sport or music or education or whatever were all acknowledged and, you know, praised and so on. So, and it also means I've been willing to stick my head above the parapet. I've got to, in various leadership roles, and I've got to say sometimes I've probably done it a bit too often, because you do get fired at by pretty tough metaphorical bullets, and you have to be able to withstand that. And the people who fire the bullets are both women and men, the ones who, you know, are not happy with what you're standing for. So I often wonder then, if I don't see a glass ceiling, but other people do, what is it that holds women back? Because also stuff has held me back as well. And is it the system, the structures, or is it something in us? So having given lots of thought to this, and also over the years, I have mentored a lot of younger colleagues on a voluntary basis, both male and female. And I continue to do that because I think it's a really important thing to do. And I've ended up concluding that what holds women back is actually a bit of both, to be honest. Without doubt, the system discriminates. Discriminates because of gender, or ethnicity, of age, or whatever. And I'm not going to argue with that. The data prove, we know it's true. Structurally, culturally, the system is just not good enough wherever you go. But if I could just refer to Sheryl Sandberg and one of her quotes within her Lean In book. And for this one, she took a load of flack. She wrote, "We, women, lower our own expectations of what we can achieve." And she took a load of flack on that. But I think I agree with her, because I know there's times when, through my lack of self-belief, I've lowered my expectations. So I do think in the end, a bit of what holds us back as women is a bit of both. However, I've also learned something, and I think dealing with illness and yet still having a life has also taught me a huge amount, as have all the youngsters I've worked with over the years. You learn a huge amount working particularly with teenagers. And what we all see and hear, whether it's on the media, on social media, on a news program these days, is loads of time and energy ranting about unfairness, blaming others, getting very worked up. And I could use up a lot of my diminished energy by doing that, because I'm really driven by values such as fairness and justice. However, if instead I channel my energy, and others of us do the same, to look at what I can do, to find the routes that I can take, to find the solutions that are there within my sphere of influence, the roles that I can go for, the influence I can exert. And if I and others keep doing that, then what will happen is it will ensure that more and more women move into leadership roles, more and more women become respected and authoritative voices and influencers. And alongside that, if we all mentor other colleagues, men and women, and help them grow their talents and leadership skills, grow their confidence, and apply for and get promoted posts or start a business, follow their enthusiasms, then steadily more and more and more women and men who support and respect women progress into influential roles, and their voices and impact grows ever louder and ever more powerful. So let's all work with fellow women, work with fellow men, help encourage talent, confidence, build skills, help people follow their enthusiasm, climb up those ladders in every sector, and we can all listen out for the tinkling of glass as the glass ceilings shatter and systems and culture change. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Barbara. I really liked your reference to Sheryl Sandberg. I thought her book was really good. And also it's great to hear about how many times you've broken through all of the barriers throughout your career. So moving on, we have Kavita Pansanoru. Kavita is a consultant child and adolescent psychiatrist.
Sorry, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. And thank you for inviting me to this forum commemorating the International Women's Day 2021. I truly believe it to be an honor and a privilege to be here with you all today. And it was such an inspirational story from Barbara, who has set the scene very well in terms of how we can challenge systems and cultures and wade our way through leadership. Very appropriate to the same theme. When Sujata asked me to talk about the theme of choose to challenge, I was thinking about my own personal story, and I was thinking of two specific examples that very much chime with that theme. So I'm a consultant child and adolescent psychiatrist currently working in Anirin Bhavin University Health Board. I was born and brought up in South India. For people who are not familiar, it's a place called Hyderabad. And I come from a fantastic home where I was given every opportunity by my parents and was also quite protected. Both my parents are from a teaching profession, and I'm the youngest in the family. I always wanted to be a doctor, so very much motivated and got the right support and help. Soon after medical school, I joined government service in India, and that was my first experience of a very male-dominant culture and society. I was also a victim of regular harassment in workplace for being a female, either because of their power or their position. And this was quite shocking for a young professional who's graduated and has got very strong moral, ethical values and some principles and wanting to really help the people. This kind of exposure was a real eye-opener of what the world outside could be. That was my first exposure of actually challenging the system at every step in order to fight for my own rights and my values and my principles. It was not an easy task, but I knew that it was for the right reason and the right purpose. That has been a really positive experience overall, but not an easy path to move. After getting married to my husband and having a young family, we decided to move to the UK, which I see as a very positive move. However, being a mom of 2 young children, it was not easy to start my career. So I had to take a career break, upbring my children in the right way so that they get adjusted to this system. But I was quite desperate to get back on track. Life was not easy. You have the usual common colds and coughs that children have, and then you're trying to juggle a full-time job and running the house. Very soon, I had experienced as an international woman graduate, I had to be extra smart to progress in my career. That is when I chose to actually challenge myself to be better than what I was yesterday, in a way to prove what I'm worth. At that stage, that was when I can share my second example of challenging what I can see as an unconscious bias, probably, but also a real example of discrimination. My supervisor, while I was preparing for the Royal College of Psychiatry exams, very clearly said, don't ever dream of becoming a consultant in this country. You were not born and brought up here. You don't understand NHS. And very clearly, you will not be able to help the patients from a consultant perspective. My challenge at that time was to actually overcome my inadequacies. Why can I not excel in the field that I chose to be? I signed up for every challenge I came across in my journey and progressed successfully. It was, again, quite a difficult path, but it's always not about challenging systems, but also sometimes we have to challenge ourselves in moving forward. Family support is incredibly important for a woman, and whether it is from the immediate family, wider family, friends, I think it's a huge support mechanism that we all need to fall back to, and that sometimes helps us to keep motivated and get the right help. Both my parents have been really inspirational models for me. They always said, aim high, think big, but go in small steps. So I'm quite passionate and have a vision of what I would want to do, and I just strive to achieve that. So after becoming a consultant in Enid & Bevan, I have got my special interest in leadership and management. Through the years, I have progressed to be a clinical director for the last 3 years, and my most recent appointment has been assistant divisional director for family and therapies. I'm quite infant in my new role. It's only 2 months, so I can see already the challenges that are coming up in my role. But all I can say is the passion to achieve, the passion to inspire, and the passion to move forward is actually really will help us no matter whatever are the challenges, because it's never going to be an easy path. So today I come across a lot of inspired and inspirational women every single day in my work-life balance every day. And I think all women are unique in their own way. And as the world celebrates the International Women's Day 2021 today, I would want to express my gratitude to all women, grandmothers, mothers, sisters, daughters, wives, friends, peers, professionals, or no matter where they are in their journey, every woman is special. So this is a real good occasion to celebrate and reflect on our own strengths. So thank you again for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Kavita. It's really great to see how you're positively tackling the challenges that you're facing. Moving on, we have Mitty Thomas. Mitty is the European Vice President of WFWPE, President for WFWP UK, and the Nordic Regional Director. This involves working towards women's leadership, addressing UK Parliament on domestic violence and honour-based crimes, and co-founding the Youth Achievement Awards and the Young Women's Speech Contest. Moving forward, as we're limited on time, if everyone could keep their section to 3 to 4 minutes, that would be really good. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for inviting me to come to this conference. I'm really, really grateful that we can celebrate International Women's Day together. And so far, hearing these stories from our previous speakers has been quite heartwarming. But of course, I could see there was a lot of challenges for women on the journey. When I was asked to say a few words, I was really reflecting, and I asked my 20-year-old daughter, what do you think I should talk about on the International Women's Day? She says to me, Mom, yeah, make sure you talk about equality, how women have achieved so much, but also make sure that we don't discriminate men on the journey. And I thought, that's right. We have to be very careful that we don't discriminate and sideline men as we go forward. I do understand that there are so many obstacles and difficulties that women have had to endure, and in order to really achieve the highest office. And the other point I was really reflecting about when I was thinking to come here and to speak was about my mother, my own mother. I come from a Sikh background. My parents moved to Kenya, and then that's where all the children were born, 4 brothers and 2 sisters. And then my father, a year ahead, moved to the UK and worked in Glasgow, and then moved down to Birmingham and made some financial foundation. And then eventually he asked all the children, and of course my mother, to bring all the children. And I just thought about my mother at that precise moment, how she had to endure by herself with 7 children. And the importance that mothers play in the family, it is really important. The mother had to keep everything together. Of course, my father was the breadwinner, and she was not educated. She didn't have the opportunity to go to school, and she started to have children at a very early age. But beside that, they were very close to each other. And I'm really proud of my mother that even during that time in the early days, it was very difficult to earn some money. So at the same time, raising 7 children, she had to really make money on the side in order to support the family income. And it just goes to show the resilience that women have in themselves, nurturing and taking care of the children, as well as making sure the family is running healthily and strongly. And at the same time, supporting my father, that he didn't feel the pressure of financial pressure. I just felt that this is really a role model for me. I myself found the Women's Federation in 1992, and I was really looking for an organization where I could really invest myself. And the ethos of the Women's Federation is very kindred to me, about the living for the sake of others, and really, using your motherly instinct to take care of others. Especially we can see in society, there are so many disadvantaged situations, children who are hungry, and women who are going through violence, and never having the opportunity, or marrying very early in their lives to men who could be their own fathers. So there were so many disadvantages. And so I felt that through this Women's Federation, I could have an opportunity where I could challenge my own God-given gifts that we all are embedded in us. So, and our founder of the Women's Federation, Dr. Hakjam Hunmun, she herself has 12 children and over 40 grandchildren, and she is also standing in the front line. Recently, she's been holding lots of rallies of hope during these difficult times when our world is really in a lot of conflict and seeking for a pathway to do the right thing. So I think the skills that I learned at home was the skills that I carry on within my neighbors, with my friends, and also within the organization that I'm privileged to lead at the moment, because I deal with women from all nationalities, and not necessarily just women, but also men. And it's very important, the skills that one learns that share. Of course, I'm not saying that there is difficulties in society and there is violence and women have to endure through a lot. And so we really have to create a sisterhood that we can support each other. Some of us are very privileged and some are very disadvantaged and going through many, many trials in their lives. So I think it's very important always to think about the other and to think about our neighbors, but also to give a helping hand. I'm very grateful to all the previous speakers who really talked about some quite passionate points, even about our health. We need to take care of our health so that we can work, you know, and help others. Yeah. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. It is a day where we can celebrate, you know, what women have achieved. Many women have broke the glass ceilings, but of course, we want those women to give us a helping hand to come up that ladder. And we don't want women to be pulling the heels of other women who are going up that ladder. I think I always talk about the pink elephant in the room, you know. We have to kind of consider that. What kind of women are we? Are we women who are really encouraging each other to go forward and make that difference in society? And also we have to go in partnership with men. We cannot do it by ourselves. It's very important that women should be in the decision-making positions in society, that women bring their feminine qualities. They don't need to imitate and become like men, but they have some unique beauties that they can bring to the table. So thank you so much. And I'm really grateful.
Thank you, Mitty. Yeah, I definitely agree that we need to form a global support network with men included, so that everyone is equal. Moving on, we have Lina Menon. Lina is a doctor working as a GP and also runs a dance school to teach Indian classical dance to local community. She continues to help grow the children in a holistic way. That's her part that she plays to the community alongside fundraising for the mentoring. Hi, Lina, I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's been so inspiring and inspirational to hear all my co-speakers, and I think I echo all their emotions and comments and remarks about this evening. We're here to celebrate International Women's Day, but at the same time, as Mitty said, you know, it's in partnership with men. So my little journey till now, growing up in South India, like Kavita, you know, we all had our challenges, but of course my strength came from my parents. My mom was a working woman, and I think I saw her juggling working life and professional life. It wasn't easy at all. But I think as we grow, we see those challenges, and you know, I think what keeps us going is just the way forward, you know, and not looking back. So I think I always wanted to be a doctor. And at one point in my life when I was growing up, it was a decision between being a doctor and a dancer. And then I decided, you know, it came to this point where you can be a doctor and continue to dance, but you can't be a dancer and become a doctor. So I chose the former, where I could do both. And I think I've been extremely fortunate and blessed that I was given these opportunities. So with a single focus, and I think I was, in a way, it was a selfish motive. I should say I had a daughter, my son, and then a daughter. So I wanted her to learn Indian classical dancing. So with that in mind, I was in hunt for a very good teacher. Because of course, having trained myself as a young person, I knew what the authentic traditional Indian classical dance training was. So that was the focus. And I think destiny just brought me to an excellent teacher from India, and she just moved to the UK. And I think the rest is history. Circumstances changed. So I founded the school in 2012, where we really pushed and got a lot of children together. Circumstances changed. We called it what the current name is Samarpan Nrityalaya in 2017. And I've got a wonderful teacher who comes to teach our girls. What drives me, I think, love for the art and to impart our culture to the young kids. And I think the satisfaction that I see on my girls' faces when they dress up and perform at events. And we've again been very blessed that we've been able to perform at various high-profile events, including the Welsh Assembly government. And of course, as a professional, my love to help others has always been there. And again, I've been extremely fortunate. I'm in an excellent team up in Philly, part of the Iron Bevan Health Board, where Kavita works. And medicine and fine art, I think, is an art. So again, I've been blessed that I've had this opportunity in life to give back to the local community. Of course, the pandemic, like all of us, has been particularly challenging, and we've tried to continue our lessons virtually. In fact, the children have again performed virtually as well as done grade exams. That's my dance girls. And of course, in the midst of all this mayhem in life, we've got to look after ourselves, because how do we drive ourselves and how do we motivate us? So I think my yoga, regular exercise, and good food, of course, keeps me sane, I should say. But of course, I can't forget the fact that behind all this, I've got a supportive family, my husband and 2 kids. As much as they think I'm crazy about trying to juggle all this, but of course, I think they love me for what I do. I wouldn't have got here otherwise. So before I close, I just urge women and men, follow their passion early on, dream on, and with all the positive energy, life will certainly give you opportunities. I echo my previous speaker's comments that we ensure we don't ignore men in our journey of trying to attain equality, because I think we all have our individual roles to play in society. And I don't think we're all interlinked. We are very much created to come together and work as teams. So as they say, women weren't created to do everything that men can do, but women were created to do everything that men can't do. So again, I think there's so much of intercalation and interlinking there. So let's move on to these challenging circumstances and stay positive. Thank you so much, Sujata and the mentoring. It's been an amazing opportunity. I'm really humbled to have had this chance to celebrate International Women's Day with all my colleagues and friends. Thank you.
Thanks, Lina. I really like how you never dropped your passion for dance, even when you wanted to become a doctor, amongst other things. Now we're moving on to Lorraine Harris. Lorraine is a longtime practitioner of meditation and qualified mindfulness instructor. Lorraine runs 2 charities in Wales where she's CEO for the Ropka Trust.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, okay. So I'm absolutely in awe of all you wonderful women that have been talking before me. So thank you for inviting me. So my story, I think I come from a family that was really never interested in education. I was never pushed to study or anything when I was younger. And then I went to an outward bound school, the bank. I left school after my GCSEs, worked in the bank, and they sent me from Wales to an outward bound centre because I was very shy. And there was then another lady chosen from England, so we went, and I was quite scared for the 2 weeks that I was on this outward bound course. And at the end of the 2 weeks, they say, "How do you think you've done?" And I said, "Oh, not very well, really." And they say, "You've come out as a leader." So what that did for me, it made me think more about myself. Anyway, a few years passed. To cut a long story short, I got married, went to live in South Africa, and I was there for 9 years. So I had 2 children and no one to support me, really. So I brought them up really without any help or any guidance. And there was a lady over there who was a homeopath, a doctor of homeopathy, and she inspired me tremendously. And what I feel in my life, it's been certain people that stand out who've acted as mentors. And I was so impressed by her that she could do anything. I thought I could do anything. So I ran a play school when my children were really small, and I ran a catering business, which went very well. And then as the years passed, I decided to come back to the UK because I wanted to see my own mother, who I'd missed so much. And when I came back to the UK, I decided, well, I need to prove something to myself. So I did a Bachelor of Science degree, an honours degree, just for me to understand myself. And that went really well. And then I did a postgraduate in education because I was studying mindfulness. And, you know, I went through quite a few different career changes. And I always think about this teacher I had called Akon Rinpoche, Tibetan Buddhist master, who is a refugee, came to this country in 1959. And, you know, he built an amazing Tibetan Buddhist monastery in Scotland, a refugee with nothing. And his main message was, only the impossible is worth doing. So when I heard this, I thought, yes, yes. And I asked him what I should do one day. And he said, teach mindfulness, teach mindfulness. So anyway, I started a charity called Sami Foundation Wales. And what I believe is your mental health, if we don't have our mental health, you know, I believe that valuing your own mind is the greatest gift you can give yourself. If we don't give it to ourselves, no one else can give it to us. So it's about valuing our mental health, and we can inspire others when we look after our own mind to be very present in the present moment. Because they say, the neuroscientists, if you're truly mindful, there's no depression, there's no anxiety, stress. If you're truly in the present moment, it's coming through the past or it's coming from the future, because we're getting caught up in states all the time instead of being in the present moment. So I was so inspired by this that, you know, I decided, well, you know, I'll do a Lead Wales course. So I did that, you know, and I started the charity and went and got a building. I believed as well that, you know, that you could buy your own building. So I asked for money and everybody gave me money, lots of volunteers, lots of people who believed in what we were doing. So we have our own building in Cardiff. So I'm chief executive of that. And also I run a Buddhist charity as well, which is Kazus and Maison, Cardiff as well. So, and I do feel when I look back on my life, that motto that wonderful teacher gave me, only the impossible is worth doing, is about believing in your dreams and really believing that you can achieve it. And I'm so grateful and so thankful to all the women that have been mentors to me, that inspire me. And really, I think that's all I've got to say. So I know I'm trying to keep it just to 3 minutes. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, and thank you for touching on mental health as well. Now moving on, we have Arty Sherman. Arty is a fellow at the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. She is also subspecialty accredited in gynecology oncology. Arty currently operates on complex women cancer in South East Wales.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me to talk about myself and the challenges I've faced. It was actually very inspiring to hear everybody speak before me, and humbled as well, because it's amazing to see how many women do such amazing things. I just wanted to say, when I actually say I'm a consultant gynae-oncologist, the first thing I get asked is, do you work at Welindra? Because it's really hard for people to imagine that I'm actually a consultant gynae-oncological surgeon, and I operate on people, not just give them oncological medicines. So it's been a long journey, and like the previous speakers, it's been a challenging path to get to where I have. But I won't bore you with my journey, because it has been a long one. A training that could have been finished in 7 years took 13 years, because I added on a PhD to it, also looking at women's cancers, followed by accreditation in subspecialty training in women's cancer operating. So it's been a long journey, but it's been a fruitful one. Like the previous speakers, I've had lots of detractors on the way, but that only inspired me to work harder and reach where I am. And I would agree that you know, you need men and you need women to take you where you need to reach. During my training, I was very worried, because when I started my training, I was told that women cannot operate. It's a very difficult field to go into. And I did take that to heart. I was only young. I was 28 years of age, and I thought maybe, yes, that might be the way forward. I was also told that if you want to do gynae-oncology surgery, you'll have to give up the idea of ever having children. And that was something I didn't really want to do. This was said to me by another woman, obviously someone who had been through those experiences and felt that that was the way forward. That's how she had been guided. But it was very much a man who said to me, Arty, 70% of medical students nowadays are women. Do you think that in 10 years' time, when you've decided you are not going to do this because as a female you can't operate, in 10 years' time, you will not regret when there will be a lot of women doing what you want to do? I had a thought about it, and off I went on my journey thinking, we'll think about the children, we'll think about what I can and can't do. Let's just go and do what is there in front of you. And off I went to embark on my journey of doing a 3-year PhD, followed by subspecialty training. The kids happened, the job happened, the operating happened. I've been a consultant for the last 8 years, and I'm the only female gynae-oncology consultant surgeon in Southeast Wales. So it has been an interesting journey. But I think in all of this, the biggest support, like a lot of the others have mentioned, family, father, mother, brothers, my husband, my children, all of them, all the way. It's not been me. I haven't been able to do all this on my own. This does come with a lot of support. And I think we have to respect that. We are women, we respect each other, we should push each other to achieve what we can, to help other women achieve what they can, but we can't refuse the role of our families being the biggest supporting factor for us. Nor can we refuse the fact that men are equally important in our lives as well. I cannot do what I am doing without having an extremely supportive husband, much as I would not like to admit this in front of him, honestly. But it's true. When I come home at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday, till that time in the evening, my kids are being looked after by their dad. I say my kids, they're his as well, but somehow they're a bit more mine because I was asked not to have them. But there we are. I think, the message of the day, I think I echo everybody else's, is saying, as women, we have to inspire other women to break that glass ceiling. Those who've broken it, brilliant. But those who haven't, we've got to inspire and reach that glass ceiling so we can all break it together. I wouldn't say much more, but it's been an inspirational last 1 hour, I think, hearing about so many experiences. And I'm glad that I've been able to contribute a little bit to it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Arty. Good to hear that you have such a strong network of people behind you. And also, it's really great to hear that you were able to pave your own way instead of listening to other people tell you that you couldn't have kids, etc. Moving on, we have Sarah Blackford. Sarah is currently an RAF surgeon with the RAF Specialist Engagement Team, raising the profile for RAF careers across diverse communities and underrepresented groups. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, normally I do put the headphones on. Firstly, thank you for inviting me tonight. I am absolutely privileged, and it's just been immense listening to you all and all the inspiring stories. I'll try and keep this short as I can. I do like to talk, okay, so do give me a nudge if I go on. It's a bit about my background. Well, I was raised one of 6. Well, I say in South Wales, across the UK, really. My father was also serving Air Force. I'd come from a military background, but they were all males in the military. So my father was in the Air Force. I had a grandfather in the Royal Navy. My grandfather on my father's side was actually in the Burmese army that had come over to the UK in the 50s, before, for a reason unknown to us, deciding to go back to Burma. So it wasn't really in our family history for the females to join up. And I'm honest, it's possibly something that my family didn't really want for me. They wanted me to stay on at school. They wanted me to go into university. I'm not quite sure what they wanted me to do after university. I never got that far. I probably knew from the age of 12, 13 that I wanted to join the military, and I wanted to join the Royal Air Force. I wanted to travel. I wanted to have my own career. And that's what I did. I went to the careers office in Cardiff back in 1997, went and found out a little bit more information, and really never looked back. And I started my basic training then in 1997, finishing towards the end. And actually my first posting was away from all my family down in South Wales to Lossiemouth in the northeast of Scotland, January 98, at the young age of 18. Where did my journey go then? I say unfortunately, definitely not unfortunately now, but I did find myself pregnant at the age of 18, completely not planned, and not sure knowing what to do really. The Air Force was all I ever wanted to do, and don't get me wrong, in addition to the Air Force, I did always want to be a mum. It had just come a little bit sooner than I'd say that I'd had planned for me. And I honestly thought there and then that I'd possibly have to give my career up, that I'd be a full-time mum, and that I'd follow my husband around wherever he was based. Like the others, I had a fantastic male warrant officer who, when I went to let him know that I would be coming out on maternity leave, he actually refused to take my paperwork off me, because he knew that this is the career that I wanted. And his exact words were, "I'm going to rip that up in front of you. I want you to take your unpaid maternity leave, and if you come back in a few months' time and decide me that actually you're going to be a full-time mum, I'll fully support it." He said, "But I want you to have that time to think." And I'm so grateful that that's what he did for me back in 1999, because after 8 months of being on maternity leave, I realised actually, whilst I loved my son, he was my world. I wanted my career, it's something that I'd worked for, and there's no reason why I couldn't have both. And that's how my career's gone, really. I've now got 3 children. I've had a full-time career in the forces. I've lived all over the United Kingdom. I've served overseas in the Falkland Islands, and I've also served overseas in Iraq. During that time, certainly for the Air Force, like I say, back in 1998, when he refused to take my maternity, I think it goes to show how much we were appreciated, not just as females as well, but as mothers as well. So what stuck with me is, why can't I have a career? Why can't I be a mother? And actually, why can't I be a wife? Like the other day, I've got a fantastic supportive husband who's behind me every step of the way, and I think that's made a major difference to my career. So where are we now? Back in 2010, I actually chose to come out on maternity leave initially with my 3rd child, because I thought, having 3 children, having a career, maybe it was time to be a full-time mum, maybe it was time to be a full-time wife. And I actually moved back to Merthyr Tydfil. So it was really interesting listening to Barbara speak earlier, saying that she was the first female head teacher in the Valleys. I'm possibly, with my children gone to school in the Valleys, probably the first working mum in the RAF at the same time, which has been really unusual for them and at parents. Even if I've had to turn up in uniform, it's been a bit of an eye-opener. So I did move back, but I missed the RAF immensely. And with my in-law support, again, my husband's, they said, well, there's no reason. The children are settled in school, because that was a big thing for me. I wanted them to be settled. I didn't want their education to be disrupted. And with the family support, there was no need for their education to be disrupted. If I needed to go away, we'd have that support here. So I come back into the RAF back in 2014 and never looked back. In my role at the moment I applied for, it's part of the Specialist Engagement Team. I'm not a recruiter. I'm here just to engage with our communities, with diverse communities, with females, to say, look, it is possible, and reach for that ceiling. The support is there, but I think a lot of it is, you've got to want it. And I like to prove people wrong, that you can do it, you can reach for the stars, and anything's possible. And that's me, really. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. I really liked how you touched on the fact that you had a really strong support network at work as well as at home. I think both of them added together is fantastic. And our last speaker of the evening is Malini Raj Kumar. Malini is a certified career development practitioner in Vancouver, Canada, and a public speaker. She's worked in adult education centres, helping adults in charting their career goals and exploring career options. Malini also provides her services on a pro bono basis. Hi, welcome.
Thank you so much. My career journey started way back in India. When I was in high school, I lost some of my friends because they got married right after high school. And some of my friends got married after college. But I come from a very progressive family, and I'm very grateful to my mother and father. They let me do what I want. I went to university to study commerce. In those days, finance was dominated by men. So after completing my MCom, I wrote a banking exam, and I was one of the 30 to be selected from the entire country. I was placed right into management, and I went to Reserve Bank of India, which is like your Bank of England in UK. So when I went into management, my family members were really worried. My friends were worried. Their worry was, how do we find a boy who has a job higher than yours? So somehow they found a boy. So I got married. So I started my career and my family at the same time. So at work, I had to work really, really hard, extra hard, to prove to the men around me who reported to me that I was a good manager. At home, I had to really prove myself to my neighbors, to my friends, to my extended family members that I didn't sacrifice my home life. So we always talk about work and family balance. I did have this balance, but both were like this high. So I was performing the roles of a good wife, good daughter, good daughter-in-law, good at everything. But I neglected one person, which is myself. I put myself in the back burner. And my career was really doing well. At 30, I was promoted as the assistant general manager, and I was moved from one city to another. And I was placed in charge of government accounts, a division where a lot of women were working. The reason why I was placed there were the women there were very militant, they were angry, they were absenting themselves. So my supervisor, who was a man, wanted to place me there so that the women are fighting with a lady boss. So that was the goal. So I started observing the women there, and I found that the women were really very hardworking. The only reason they were absenting themselves was because they had to take time off to take care of sick children, to take care of family members, to attend parent-teacher conferences. And my organization was very rigid, a typical 9-to-5 operation. So I wanted to help the women. So within my powers, I tried to create some flexibility for them. I created some outdoor duties so that the women could go and deliver post or go to the courier or do some kind of small acts like official acts. And it gave them the time to do all their domestic chores and then come to work. So absenteeism reduced and everything was going fine there. But unfortunately, my husband couldn't join me in Bombay. So I quit my job. And I have to tell here, the pressure didn't come from my husband. It didn't come from my family members at all. I have a very supportive husband, and I'm very grateful to him for all the support he gave me. But somewhere in my subconscious, the pressure was from the society. I wanted to conform. I wanted to do what everyone in the society at that time was doing, that is playing second fiddle to man. So it was something like self-imposed. And then we moved to Canada. I rebuilt my entire career, and I'm currently working as a career advisor here. So my advice to men and women also is to follow your passion, whatever that is. Don't let your gender define you or confine you or restrict you. Just be kind to yourself and stand out as individuals. On International Women's Day, I received a lot of messages about the sacrifices the women make, the kindness they show, etc., etc., etc. I love these messages, but at the same time, I feel these messages kind of reinforce a certain expectation or an expected behavior from you. On International Men's Day, they don't get messages about the sacrifices they make, whereas they get kudos about their accomplishments in their careers. Why this difference in thinking? So the only takeaway message I want to say here is learn to say no. That's all it is. If you don't want to do anything, just say no. And a lot of opportunities will open up for you when you have this powerful tool in your hand to say no at the right time. So all I want to say at this point of time is, anytime, whenever there is some kind of evolution, one generation, two generation, or multiple generations have to sacrifice, face more challenges. So if you faced any challenge, or if you had any barriers and you broke those barriers, it'll pave way for a better future for all the young women out there. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share my journey with you. And thank you to all the lovely ladies who spoke before me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Malini, and thank you again to everyone who spoke today. We have someone in the audience that would also like to participate. Yasmin, are you there?
She is in mute, Yasmin.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, it's just that I think Sujata ji is a very special lady and I would like her to speak. Please, Sujata ji, please. It's the last, you know, just speak out what, you know, everything about yourself. Bas.
Yeah, thank you, Yasmin. I don't know what to say because I'm not prepared, but anyway, just to let you know that I have gone through personal experiences and I would love to help others. That's how I've decided to be in the charity sector. And I meet lovely people like Yasmin and all of you who have accomplished something and shared your experiences. I'm amidst people who are vulnerable, they need help. Look at this pandemic that has really changed everyone's life, and everyone needs everyone. Am I right in saying that? And it had really had an impact on each one of us in some way or the other. So I feel I'm at the right place to support each and every one of our beneficiaries, how much ever we could. We are a very small charity, but I'm very proud that I'm able to help so many people. And I made such good friends, like TMR friends, like Yasmin and other people who come together, peer support, talking to each other. You know, somebody was telling today that talking is the best way to reduce your mental health or any emotional stress. So that's what we do. And I'm proud to be amidst all of you here today. Yasmin, you want to say something or?
Yes, tell us about your time in India, what you were doing and everything.
Oh, it's like, well, in India, I think I had in the afternoon an interview with the British Army. That's what I think Yasmin is talking about. So I'm a glider pilot. I've done my gliding when I was a student. And I was being interviewed today by British Army to be a role model to ethnic minority communities or anybody, youngsters, to join Army or Air Force or Navy. So when I was young, I've done that gliding, and I feel very proud that I'm a pilot. So when I fly, sometimes I think, oh, I hope the pilot lands safely, you know, because I think I can fly. And yes, I used to teach in college in India. I was a chemistry lecturer. So I had many fans. My students are my fans, and I enjoyed. And I know Malini and myself, we were announcers in radio stations. So we know each other for nearly over 40 years, I think, Malini. Now, Malini is in Canada, and I'm so proud that she's involved with our charity. And Malini delivers career development courses for us, for our clients, on third Monday of the month. Thank you all for participating and taking part in this event. I would love to say thank you to each one of you, but I think we are getting short of time. So it was wonderful listening to such empowering stories and thoughts from each one of you. And let's all continue to choose, to challenge, and call out inequality. If you have any feedback, please email us, and stay safe and have a lovely evening. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.
All the speakers were wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for a lovely evening.
Have a good evening. Enjoy
Well done.
Women's Day.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.
Says that more than 70
Bye.
million
Thank you, Ruby.
watched this last night.
Hi, Mati. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Yasmin.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for coming.
Bye, Miti. Bye, Yasmin. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Nice to see everybody.
Enjoy the
Thanks,
rest of
Kalpana.
the day.